Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Juveniles across the state, including here in Lubbock, cannot be cited for simply getting caught outside their homes late at night. Last year, Texas lawmakers prohibited cities and counties from adopting or enforcing a juvenile curfew ordinance starting on September 1st of last year.
Investigative reporter Shaylee Kidwell spoke with Lubbock's new police chief about the juvenile crime rate in our area and the tool law enforcement lost.
Summer vacation is in full swing, and for the first time since 1983, juveniles cannot be cited for breaking a City of Lubbock curfew. For years, the Lubbock Police Department called the city's juvenile curfew ordinance an invaluable tool for local law enforcement to reduce truancy and criminal activity. Officers also issued citations to parents, guardians, and establishments. From 2016 to 2018, the Lubbock Police Department reported law enforcement issued 468 juvenile curfew citations. In September 2022, then Police Chief Floyd Mitchell gave council members an update on enforcement efforts, stating law enforcement had issued 200 citations from 2019 to that date. Mitchell suggested a plan to reprioritize curfew enforcement. He told council he wanted to have 6 officers work overtime in the summer months to pick up curfew violators who would then be taken here to the East Patrol Division, where they would wait for a parent or guardian to pick them up. Some council members question if this would be the best use of resources.
So I think that's my concern is, do we need to mandatory overtime 6 guys for 4 kiddos a month? And maybe the number will be a lot higher because you're talking about trying to enforce it more.
Ultimately, council voted to keep the juvenile curfew ordinance.
Carries 7-0.
Mitchell tried out his plan the following summer. Here's a look at how many juvenile curfew citations officers issued during the summer of 2023. In May, 2 juveniles and 2 adults. June, 25 juveniles and 13 adults. July, 30 juveniles and 16 adults. The number dropped in August to 9 juveniles and 8 adults. As officers in Lubbock worked to strengthen enforcement of the ordinance, an argument against curfew ordinances was taking place at the state capitol. Advocates for House Bill 1819 argued juvenile curfew ordinances were an ineffective way to reduce crime and led to negative outcomes for youth in school and future interactions with the justice system. The law went into effect September 1st, 2023. We sat down with Lubbock's new police chief, Seth Herman, to talk about the law that forced cities like Lubbock to repeal their ordinances.
Kind of ambivalent to it because I understand the efficacy of it and the way it can be utilized, but I also see that from an overall crime rate standpoint, is it going to curb a lot of crime by enforcing the curfew? No, not necessarily.
Prior to taking the job in Lubbock, Herman spent 29 years with the Midland Police Department, where they also enforced a juvenile curfew ordinance.
I think what it gave law enforcement was a tool to contact juveniles and to find out, number one, if they were okay. I think that's a factor in the curfew law that a lot of people don't understand is sometimes the parents don't know that the children have gotten out of the house and are running around with their friends, but unfortunately there are households where there's no supervision. And that's a major concern.
Herman says it's typical for juvenile crime to climb in the summer months. This year, Lubbock police officers arrested 43 juveniles in January, 47 in February, 74 in March, 81 in April, and 85 in May.
And most of those crimes committed by juveniles are going to be thefts and assaults. But unfortunately, we also have a number that involve aggravated crimes, such as robbery and aggravated assault involving a weapon. And we have murders as well.
Just last month, officers arrested a 16-year-old who is now sitting in the Lubbock County Juvenile Justice Center, charged with murder. William Carter is the director there.
The offenses that we have in custody at this point in time are quite a few violent offenders, some with death-related events, many of them with weapons charges.
Even with this year's numbers, Carter says the overall population at the center is down.
The first 5 months of this year versus the first 5 months of last year, I showed an 8% decrease in referrals.
He says the staff numbers have also improved.
Last year, when the commissioners were able to give us the raises to get us even with the sheriff's department, we've been a lot better on staffing issues than we've ever been.
Some may still argue law enforcement has lost an efficient tool to help curb crime, But Herman says officers aren't the only ones who should be working to prevent juveniles from winding up here.
It's a parent's responsibility to make sure that their juvenile is following the rules, following the law, doing what they're supposed to do. And when they're not attuned to that, that's when things tend to go off the rails.
Shaylee Kidwell, KCBD Investigates.